Hey, Mr. John Wood. How's it going?
Hey, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you. How's it going,
Okay.
man?
Good, Fred. Good, thank you. The last few times I've been on a Twitter space, I have had this problem, even though I'm speaking right to a relatively new iPhone, an iPhone 13 Pro. It sounds like I've been at the dentist, and I have like cotton balls in my mouth. Can you hear me clearly? This time I've got some speakers on, or headphones on rather.
No. Yeah.
So you can hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you okay. Yeah, it's fine for now.
Ah,
Sure. I'll let you
perfect,
know.
perfect.
Yeah, I'll let you know if it breaks up, and I'll also ask you the same, in case it gets choppy from my end during the conversation. Just let me know. All right.
Absolutely.
Cool, man. I'm excited about this. This is gonna be a nice Twitter Spaces for for myself, for the Algo fam. I'm truly pumped about this. Cannot wait to get started.
Yeah, it's very exciting. I can see Seba is here as well. This is such an
Oh, very
important.
nice. Seba, if you can send, just click on the mic button and send a request, please.
Yeah, this is an important occasion for Algorand and a step forward in terms of compatibility and interoperability.
100%. I'm so excited. All right, looks like Seba is joining us right now. Hey, Seba, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Fantastic. How are you today?
Good. Ready to get started. I'm not sure how much time we want to
Fantastic.
give to people to just join in, or if you want to get
Yes.
started right away.
I guess we just get started. I mean, we already have a few dozen live. The Algorand Foundation account just joined. The Algorand Inc. account is joining in a minute. But I mean, it's up to you guys. But for me, we can just get started. I also have, just some like announcements and some quick stuff that I got to say beforehand. So if you were good, we can just get right started. What do you guys think?
Absolutely, good for me.
All right, sounds good.
All righty, sounds good. All right, so first of all, I just want to thank, John and Seba for being here today. I also want to thank, Algorand Inc. and Foundation for joining the Twitter Spaces and help us amplify the amazing conversation we're about to have. But, well, Algo fam, it is an absolute pleasure to be here once again for another amazing Twitter Spaces that I'm so much looking forward to. As you all know, I am a super Algorand lover, and nothing excites me more than seeing, our own tech stack and ecosystem evolve. And today, we're gonna get a chance to learn all about Milkomeda's L2 that just brought, the Ethereum virtual machine compatibility to Algorand. And of course, I'm pumped because for this chat, I'm joined by two heavyweights, our very own CTO, Mr. John Woods, and Sebastien. Sebastien is the CTO and co-founder of DC Spark, one of the core contributors to Milkomeda, as well as also the director of the Milkomeda Foundation. He has been working in blockchain professionally since 2018, where for many years he was leading the Cardano team at one of the Cardano founding entities, Emergo. So before we get started here today, because I have so much to ask Seba, I just want to properly welcome John and Seba to the Twitter Spaces. It's so good to be here with you both today. So how are you both doing?
I'm good. I'm good, and thank you for the wonderful intro. Seba, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing great as well. It's just a really exciting time for us as a company. So Algorand is the first deployment of our rollup solution, and we have quite an ambitious roadmap. And I'm really excited to work on this roadmap together with the Algorand community.
Fantastic, Seb. I truly appreciate it. And well, Algo family, just a few quick reminders before we get started. So, first reminder: this Twitter Spaces is going to be recorded and is going to be available for playback over the next 30 days. And we're also going to do our best to leave some minutes in the end, at the hour, to open the floor for community questions. All right. So if you all have any questions, just save them up, hit the mic request button, and then towards the end of the Twitter Spaces, we're going to open the floor for community questions. Plus, I'm also going to make a special announcement at the end of our Twitter Spaces today. All right, but I don't want to waste any time today. So let's dive right in. So first of all, Seb, I mean, it is truly an absolute pleasure to host you here today, and I'm sure I speak on behalf of the entire Algorand community that we're super thrilled with the A1 launch. Recently, Algorand has been making huge advancements in interoperability, but having the ability to execute contracts, directly on an Ethereum virtual machine running on top of Algorand with our primitives is absolutely game changing. I think it was yesterday or 2 days ago, I watched the presentation that you gave at Bloom, the Bloom event. And there you made some really interesting points. The first one is that you made a very clear, explanation, distinction of what a side chain is and what a L2 rollup is. And I will, very soon invite you to just touch on that a little bit, just to set the stage on what the difference between side chains and L2 rollups are. And second, that you talked a little bit about the C1 and what you build on Cardano, and why the Algorand A1 is significantly different than what you guys built over Cardano, and also more interesting just from a technology perspective. So I believe maybe that's a good starting point for us today. What do you think? I think that allows you to touch a little bit on the opportunity that you saw and what motivated you to bring Ethereum compatibility to Algorand. What do you think about that, Seba?
Yeah, sure. I can kind of set the stage. So, one thing that we've seen over time is that, there's been a huge adoption of the EVM. And people want to be able to take their EVM applications and deploy it across multiple chains. If you look at the top dApps by TVL and DeFi Llama, you can see that the top dApps are deployed to 5, 10, 15 different chains at this point. And there's really a mentality now of cross-chain application development. And so these developers for these different apps want to deploy to as many blockchains as possible, because the more blockchains they can deploy to, the more users they can get. And in the bear market, nobody wants to rewrite their dApp for every chain. The more cost savings you get, the more likely you are to deploy to that chain. So there's been a huge growth in demand for EVM support. And at the same time, a lot of blockchains have taken different paths from the EVM for very reasonable reasons. The EVM, is not the easiest platform to work with and has a lot of downsides as well. And so, Algorand has its own virtual machine that's not EVM compatible. So we're in a situation where a lot of dApps would like to deploy an Algorand and touch in the Algorand community, but the Algorand platform has decided not to take the EVM and build out their own vision. And so how can we resolve this difference? Well, one of the solutions that you've heard of probably a lot in the past few years is sidechains. So the concept of a sidechain is that you build a whole new blockchain that's unrelated to Algorand, other than a philosophical alignment. So one of the most popular examples of this is Polygon. You might have heard of Polygon, which is a sidechain for Ethereum. So Polygon is a totally separate network, has their own proof of stake algorithm, has their own Matic token. They have totally different validators, totally different everything. The only reason it's a sidechain and not its own blockchain is just purely a philosophical difference. They say, oh, we're aligned with the Ethereum community. We believe in the Ethereum vision. It's just a philosophical alignment. And, we could have built a sidechain for Algorand and say, okay, well, we're building a new blockchain that is just philosophically aligned to Algorand. We'll support Algo as an asset. We'll build a bridge. This is not a good solution. Why? Because, the Algorand team spent years on, researching an efficient proof of stake system, on, building the fast throughput, on building the instant finality, on building the state proofs. All this research that's gone into Algorand would be kind of wasted if we built a sidechain where it does not inherit any of these properties. So what we want to do instead is build layer 2 solutions. What a layer 2 solution is, the definition of a layer 2 is that it inherits the security properties of layer 1. So what that means is that through the Milkomeda A1 solution, when you're using A1, you still get high throughput, you still get instant finality. In the future, you'll be able to earn your staking rewards as well. And we also have some thoughts about how we can leverage stuff like state proofs, because all the A1 data also gets posted to the Algorand chain and therefore included in these state proofs. So basically, you inherit all the really awesome technologies that Algorand's built, plus you get EVM on top of it. And the technology we're working on, can be extended in the future to, for example, in the future, bring Move VM support or Fuel VM support or any kind of other VM supports to Algorand. And so we think this is, the start of a, awesome partnership to allow builders to come over and deploy their applications. But also there's a huge potential in growth and partnership between our communities, to keep, making it easier for developers to come to Algorand and take advantage of all the core, layer one technologies that Algorand and everybody involved in that community has built.
Seba, this is fantastic. Thank you very much. I think you made it extremely clear. So basically, what you guys have achieved, you basically brought Ethereum to the 21st century, right? So now you can execute Ethereum contracts, but with all the amazing L1 primitives that we have on the Algorand chain. And John, I don't want to dominate this, so I know you probably have some really interesting questions to ask Seba as well. Make some comments, so feel free to jump in at any time. But just to touch on a little bit of what you just mentioned, I think it would be really nice to understand a little bit more of like the journey to A1. So how was it to build basically the first L2 on Algorand? What was the learning experience for you guys? What have you tried? Maybe if you can share some learning and lessons, I think that would be really interesting for the Algo fam to hear, since this is like a very novel construct that you did. And I mean, not only for Algorand, but like for the blockchain space in general, right? So if you can tell us a little bit about the journey to building A1, I think it would be fantastic for us to hear.
Yeah, and just maybe I'll just quickly just pop in just before Seba continues, and I'm really interested to hear about what he's got to what he's got to say. But I would just say that one of the reasons that we awarded DC Spark.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me? Okay, no.
Yeah, I
Seba,
can hear
you hear
both
me?
of you.
Okay, maybe Fred, can you hear me? I think maybe Fred can't. But yeah, one of the reasons that the foundation awarded DC Spark the super grant in relation to Ethereum compatibility is because they have built some incredible tools, both development tools, infrastructure, DSLs around Cardano. So they had proven track record in blockchain. And on top of that, I'll always remember when Seba and the team were approaching us, they were coming with something that was in testnet that worked. And so it really excites me when working with a bunch of people who, when they're applying for a super grant, they come with working code ready and rocking and rolling in the testnet, and that's just something that I just think is testament to how they deliver. And so the initial conversations with the guys all the way to delivery into mainnet was about 2 months, I think. And so that is incredible turnaround because they'd spent so much time working on this prior to even approaching us. So I just wanted to say it was so easy to work with DC Spark. Sorry, Seba, over to you.
Yeah, thanks very much. So just some background for why we picked Algorand, both from a philosophical and a technical perspective, to kind of answer both questions at the same time. So, our company has always been really interested in, building crypto ecosystems. And if we're going to build an ecosystem, we want to build an ecosystem that, we philosophically align with. And one thing that we really love is seeing, really novel R&D work. And if there's anything that can be said about Algorand, is that they have a really awesome, research agenda, and you can see that being translated to real products or functionality on the Algorand chain. So just from that perspective, we were really interested in working with Algorand and supporting all the amazing work that the teams over there are doing. So that's, from a philosophical perspective. But also Algorand is also really nice for a kind of layer 2 called rollups. So you might remember earlier I mentioned that layer 2's the definition is, that it inherits the security properties of layer 1. But there's actually multiple ways to do this. So you might have heard of, state channels, for example, Lightning, Hydra, these kind of state channel solutions that also inherit the security properties of layer 1. And one of the kind of options that's gaining a lot of traction is rollup. So you might have heard of ZK rollups, you might have heard Optimism, Arbitrum. These are all rollup solutions. So how do rollups work? The way the rollup works is by kind of taking a step back and thinking, what is the core property of a blockchain? What makes blockchains, so powerful? And originally people were thinking, well, one of the main advantages of blockchain is you agree on the rules, right? If you submit a transaction to the Bitcoin network, people can, agree that this is a valid transaction and put it into the blockchain, or they disagree or they think it's an invalid transaction and they don't include it in the Bitcoin blockchain. So the Bitcoin blockchain is this distributed ledger of valid transactions according to the Bitcoin rules. But then people realize, wait a minute, that this is actually not the core value proposition, because you could have something that they call a dirty ledger, which is a version of Bitcoin that includes both valid transactions and invalid transactions. So you can think of this like Ethereum. On Ethereum, you have transactions that succeeded and transactions that failed. Both transactions are part of the full Ethereum history, right? And so when you're syncing an Ethereum node, your node knows to process successful transactions and knows to discard the effects of failed transactions. And so the core value of a blockchain is not, necessarily the validation logic. The core value is having, an agreed set of data and having that data shared globally. So even though it's been, 14 years since Bitcoin released, anybody from anybody in the world can download, a fully synchronized version of Bitcoin history, which is not true for most of the internet. Most websites that were created 14 years ago are, long gone. And so, taking this, core value proposition, we can reuse this for this technology called rollups, this concept called rollups, which is instead of executing EVM transactions on Algorand, which would require some kind of interpreter or similar logic, what we do is we post kind of like a log of user actions. So we say like Bob sent some algo to this person, Alice called this EVM smart contract, and we just keep track of a log. And when you synchronize your Algorand full node, you look for these log files inside transactions and process them to basically rebuild a view of an EVM that's kind of embedded inside Algorand, inside this concatenation of all user actions. So this is, kind of the core idea of how rollups and Milkomeda works. And the reason this technology works really well on Algorand is you have fast block times, so you can easily react to user actions, and then you have instant finality. So once the user action happens, you can include this in your EVM state and know that it won't roll back. And then the last thing that also helps is the fact that because Algorand has such high throughput, it can support a fair amount of data throughput as well. And so we have enough space in the blockchain to store these user actions. This may seem like trivially true, but actually a lot of blockchains can't really support this. So for example, Solana is also a chain with very high throughput, as you may know, but it doesn't really have any good way to post the amount of data required for this kind of layer 2 solution. And so Algorand is also kind of uniquely positioned with their technology to support, this kind of technology.
It's really interesting to hear, Seba. And I think a lot of times some of the subtleties like this in engineering this level of solution are lost on a lot of kind of casual users of cryptocurrencies. They maybe haven't faced some of these problems, the engineering problems that you're going through, and maybe they would look at something like Solana and Cardano and Algorand, and they would all seem pretty similar. But actually, when you go to build on them, some of these subtleties in terms of architecture can really make a difference, I guess, to implementation of a product as sophisticated as A1. I had a quick question that I know the answer to this because we've discussed it, but just to kind of for everyone else, I think it's an interesting point. Could you maybe speak a little bit to how compatible A1 is with general Solidity? And so what I mean by that is for the large majority of applications that are out there, maybe looking at their, from simple apps to more complex apps, could you maybe talk about how easy it will be to get them up and running on Algorand with A1? Just maybe walk us through a high-level workflow of taking your Solidity code and then what the high-level steps will be in getting that running on Algorand.
Yeah, so the quick answer is we're EVM compatible, so any smart contract should work. And because of that, any tool should work. So Hardhat, Remix, MetaMask, all the tooling experience you have for Ethereum should work as is. Now, I will add one slight caveat to this that might affect a very small percentage of users, which is that Ethereum has multiple nodes, as you may know. So they have multiple implementations of Ethereum. And some of them have like custom functionality for one specific node that the other nodes don't support. So If your app is dependent on like some special functionality that's only supported by a subset of the Ethereum network instead of some standardized protocol, you may run into some issue. But other than this, it should be fully EVM compatible. And one thing I want to add on top of this is not only do you get, full as is compatibility with your Slate contract, with all your tools, all your tests, everything you're used to, you also will hopefully in the future get even more than what you get in the Ethereum world. So some of the stuff that we're working on is protective rollups, which will basically make you be able to access layer 1 state inside the layer 2. So the reason that we've been working on this is because if you look at the Ethereum ecosystem, they have a lot of rollups, a lot of layer 2 solutions. And the main problem they have is that every layer 2 they deploy needs to restart from scratch. They need to redeploy oracles, redeploy dexes, redeploy everything. And every time they need to redeploy these tools, it's a large R&D effort, and more notably, it's a large capital cost. As you may know, deploying an Oracle solution is non-trivial and very expensive, and having to redeploy an Oracle 10 times is even more complicated. And so what we really wanted to do was allow applications that we've already built on Algorand to be leveraged and reused in A1. And then in the future, if we have something like a Move VM support, Fuel VM support, or other deployments of Milkomeda, all these can reuse the core primitives of the Algorand blockchain and dApps and oracles and these kinds of solutions that the community has already spent so much time building. This is something that you don't currently get in layer 2 solutions in Ethereum. And it's a technology that we've been working on for a while, and we're delivering, hopefully first on the Algorand blockchain.
Super cool. Absolutely. So,
Awesome,
Fred, maybe
Seba.
over
And
to you.
first of all, I just apologize to John before I think I cut him off. Unfortunately, I lost your audio, John, so I'm listening to you on my computer and then, muting one phone, muting the computer and vice versa to try to catch up on the conversation. So apologies for that. Seba, I do have a quick question for you, though, regarding like the actual validation of the L2 transactions. Like, do you have a network that's validating the transactions, for the Milkomeda on the EVM, or how does that work? And if that is even a thing, like in the future, do you think like community is going to be able to run kind of like A1 nodes to help participate in the validation of these transactions? If you can just tell us a little bit about that front, I think I'm very curious about.
Yeah, for sure. So currently, the first version of Milkomeda is relying on 2 security assumptions. So there's basically 3 parts to a layer 2. Is going on the layer 2, updating the layer 2 state, and then getting off the layer 2, right? These are 3 distinct steps. So from getting on the layer 2 and interacting with the layer 2, there's no extra assumption for security. The only thing you have to take into account is a censorship risk. And to combat this, we have multiple validators running the Milkomeda node that's basically posting the layer 2 state on the layer 1. This gets kind of technical, but so there should be, a few concerns about censorship resistance because it's not one entity, there's a few validators. So that perspective, there's not much of a concern. Getting from the layer 2 back to layer 1 is the main problem of layer 2s, and this is what everybody is putting a lot of efforts into. So if you look at ZK rollups, why are ZK rollups so complicated? Why are people not using them right now? This is the main problem that they're still attempting to solve. This is the same thing with Optimism, same thing with Arbitrum, and same thing with us. So everybody's currently spending a lot of time on the R&D stage of, offboarding from layer 2 to layer 1. We think we have a unique solution as to how we can improve the current security model to be more decentralized, to support, as you said, arbitrary people joining the protocol and helping with validation. And we'll hopefully reveal more detail about this in the near future. But currently, we're in the same state as basically every other layer 2 solution out there, which is that this is still in the research phase.
This is amazing, Seb. Thank you very much. It's super clear now. And just out of curiosity, so okay, you mentioned the L2 inherits, all the L1 primitives, but in terms of transactional throughput, like how many transactions per second, let's say, Milkomeda L2 can process right now? Is it the same? Is it the full 6,000 that we can do on the L1, or is it less? And if it's less, why? And can we scale? If you can touch a little bit on that point, it would be great.
Yeah, sure. So the transaction per second calculation is a little awkward because the amount of transaction throughput we can get depends on how much data throughput we can get on the layer one. So obviously, if we're the only application running Algorand, we'll get much higher throughput than if we're one application out of many. So if you assume that Milkomeda A1 is the only application running currently, we should get somewhere between 300 to 400 TPS, which realistically should be good enough for any application on Algorand at the moment, because that's significantly higher than what you get on Ethereum and more than what you get on Polygon and other solutions, I believe. Actually, I don't remember the Polygon number. Maybe they've improved over the years. But it's good enough. Obviously, as Algorand grows in popularity, I'm sure there'll be other layer twos popping up, other popular dApps popping up, and everybody has to share the block space in one way or another. But the Algorand team, as you've seen in the latest update, is more than committed to continue performance improvements on their side. So I'm not too worried about this part.
It really is. It really is incredible. Can you hear me okay, by the way, Fred?
Yes, perfect. Thank you, John.
Okay, wonderful. It's incredible. So basically on A1 using Algorand, you can expect to see somewhere around theoretically 10 times the transaction rate of Ethereum. Ethereum somewhere around 30 transactions a second or so when max at the moment, and then A1 I guess about 300 if it was using the full stack, the full bandwidth. And in addition to having an order of magnitude greater transaction speed, even though it's a layer two abstracted above the layer one. On top of that, I guess Seba, the transactions are going to be a hell of a lot cheaper as well, right? To make those calls in the Ethereum contracts and to basically interact with any application deployed in A1, right? It'll be cheaper than interacting with the same application on Ethereum.
Yeah, the fees are mostly negligible.
Cool. Sorry, John, go ahead.
Now, I was just going to say, what a win. So I think the message is so for me, the next big step is getting the word out there. I think when Ethereum developers who have established applications, or when new developers who are out there about to finish the development of their Solidity contracts are about to roll out into production, it's like, hey guys, come over to Algorand, throw the Solidity contract into A1, and you'll have 10 times the performance at a fraction of the cost, and there's no downside here, right? You might as well bring your application over from Ethereum and check out how good it is on Algorand.
Yeah, and we also have a lot of functionality in the works to also make sure that the success of A1 also means the success of the layer one. So one of the reasons we wanted to build a layer two solution is because, as I mentioned earlier, we really want Algorand as a blockchain to succeed. And we want, what we're building not to be beside Algorand, not to be taking from Algorand. We want to be adding to Algorand. And so what we hope will happen is that a lot of projects come over to A1 and then use this as a temporary kind of staging ground and eventually transition to deploying on the layer one. So some things that we're doing to enable this is, one, the projective rollups I talked about earlier. So basically you can build your dApp on the layer two and then start taking advantage of layer one protocols using the projective functionality. So you can access the layer one state of a liquidity pool or the layer one state of an oracle. And then to get more user adoption, you would eventually migrate more and more of your application to the layer one. Another thing we're tackling is also the other direction. As any Algorand developer may know, sometimes you're building a dApp for Algorand and all your dApp is working fine with, all the Algorand tools, but there's one specific part of your dApp that has a Solidity contract for it. And you're like, damn it, I wish, I could use Solidity just for that one small part of my dApp, just the governance API or just this functionality, make my life so much easier. And we're working on enabling this functionality through something we're calling wrapped smart contracts. Basically, the idea is that you'll be able to create a transaction on Algorand that looks like it's calling Algorand smart contract. Under the hood, this passes a message to layer 2, does the calculation on the layer 2, and then transfers the message back to layer 1. So from a user perspective, you could be using some dApp that's written entirely for Algorand, and then one small subset of that dApp is actually implemented using Solidity. And from a user perspective, you wouldn't really be able to tell the difference. So this allows, app developers for Algorand, if there's a Solidity function that they already know that they can leverage, it allows them to take advantage of this functionality to get their dApp to market faster, and then potentially in the future replace this functionality with an Algorand primitive.
Seb, this is amazing. Any ETA on this?
So we're currently working on the implementation. We'll probably start working on the audit fairly soon because we're kind of wrapping up the core development work. So realistically, sometime next year.
Hi, that's insane. But Seba, a few minutes ago, you said something that you really shouldn't have, right? Because now I gotta try to extract some alpha from you for the Algo fam. You briefly mentioned you guys have some thoughts on how to leverage state proofs on the A1. You give me no choice but ask. Anything you can share with us right now about these ideas? What are you guys contemplating? How can state proofs be leveraged?
Yeah, so before I get into that, I want to first kind of clear up one thing, which is that state proofs, and they're kind of probably most common implementation, is to have kind of trustless bridging, right? So imagine you have a contract on the Ethereum mainnet, and you want to know that something happened on the Algorand blockchain. State proofs allow for a way to make this possible. This specific use case is not so useful for us because as a layer 2 solution, you already have access to the full Algorand state. So as you may remember when I said to synchronize the Milkomeda node, all you have to do is synchronize the Algorand full node, which means if you're running an archival node, you already get access to the full EVM history, and you don't particularly need this kind of summary. So I know a lot of people ask us, like, are you going to be using state proofs for going from the layer 1 to the layer 2? And the answer is no, because we don't actually need to, because we have access to the full Algorand history. So you don't need kind of a subset of the functionality. Where we are looking at state proofs is mostly in respect to vector commitments. And I'm not sure how technical people in the audience are, so I don't want to get too much into it. But some of the projective functionality that we're working on may rely on there's a few different ways we have of implementing it. And one of the options we're thinking of using may leverage some of this kind of same vector commitment schemes that state proofs are using. And so we're definitely looking into this technology to see what we can leverage and what we can reuse in our protocol, both from projecting from layer 1 to layer 2, and then projecting back down from layer 2 to layer 1. So that's a long way to say still in the R&D phase. We'll have some more announcements about this at some point in the future.
And it makes perfect sense, right? So, like, I agree with Seba's contention, which is when you're using technologies, you got to use the right tool for the right job. And state proofs, of course, have two major uses at the moment. One is in posterity securing the history of the chain from quantum attacks, and it's a useful side effect of state proofs using a post-quantum cryptographic primitive, Falcon, the NIST selected winner lattice-based PQ scheme. And it's a nice side effect of I guess having state proofs issued every 256 rounds on the chain. And then the second piece, as Seba has articulated, is in order to prove the state of the Algorand blockchain to other external entities. And so this can be useful in building bridges and doing the work of the validator network. So you no longer need these validator networks. Now the state proof effectively can be utilized by the target chain directly in order to ensure the veracity of transactions. And this is super cool. But I think state proofs are really going to shine when they're used in novel implementations and novel technologies that we haven't even considered yet, the type of things that Seba and his team will be using. But there's no rush for this. And when with the current implementation using a full archival node, as where Seba said, they have full access to the entire state of the chain. There's just simply no need.
Yeah.
Fantastic, John. Thank you. And just another quick reminder for the Algo fam that, in about maybe 10 minutes or so, we're going to open the floor for questions. So, start thinking of what you guys want to ask to Seba and John about this amazing news. But Seba, I think you just touched, a lot of really interesting points about the technology you guys created. But at the end of the day, the technology is of no use if there's like nobody building on it, right? So can you tell us a little bit about the projects that are building on A1? What has already been deployed, what's in the works, just so we have a vision of what's coming to the Ethereum ecosystem within Algorand?
Yeah, for sure. So as you may have seen in the announcements, we already have some bridges and some dexes that either are on mainnet already or in the process. They're on testnet and the process of deploying to mainnet. So we have some of the basics there already. We have some cross-message solutions coming in soon. I'm not sure if they've announced this, so I don't want to mention the name. There's some other projects. We've also been talking to a lot of Algorand projects who are interested in leveraging features like wrap smart contracts that I mentioned earlier for part of their applications. So we're doing a mix of talking to external parties, bringing them in, and talking to existing layer one applications and see how we can improve and fasten their developer experience. So this is the stuff we've announced so far. We're also partnering with some other firms for stuff like gaming that will hopefully come to Algorand at some point through A1 as well. And then we're also kind of ramping up activity in Japan, which has been, quite a hot area for both NFT use cases and gaming use cases. And so we're going to be at the Japan Blockchain Expo next week to talk to people about, the work we're doing Algorand and, what kind of use cases they can allow. And so hopefully that also allows us to bring, new demographics to the Algorand family as well.
Yeah, and I would just add to that and just say, if you're a big Ethereum project, you should take the advantage. Get over, have that first mover advantage. That's going to be a big splash when your users have that great user experience from Algorand's underlying speed running on A1. You might as well come over first. Don't be the last in the gate.
Yes,
Yeah, I
and
should also say where we are probably also going to do some hackathons and accelerator programs for Algorand as well. So if you are somebody who wants to do something about this technology, but maybe you don't have the product yet or don't quite have the vision yet and you need some extra help, definitely follow us on Twitter to look up for these opportunities, and we're happy to work with anybody.
awesome. And Seba, you mentioned some projects are already live. Obviously, Blue Shift is one of them. So Algo fam, stay tuned because next Tuesday we're gonna have another Twitter Spaces with Milkomeda team, and this time we're gonna be joined by Blue Shift, so you can learn all about their DeFi protocol, right? So next Tuesday, stay tuned right here on Twitter Spaces. And Seba, if I may ask you just another follow-up question on basically everything we have been talking so far until now. You touched a little bit, some ideas for future implementations, future technology upgrades you can bring to A1. But as of now, what is your short and mid-term roadmap for the A1?
Yes, short-term roadmap was the release, of course, which we just finished. So right now, we're in the process of monitoring everything, seeing what everybody's feedback is, if they like the websites, what kind of feedback they have from that. So right now we're kind of in a listening mode to see what people's thoughts are on the release, and then we'll kind of plan to iterate on those. So that's kind of our short term right now. Medium term, as I mentioned, we're working on wrap smart contracts, and the other thing that we're working on is liquid staking, so that you can keep earning your algo rewards while you're using Milkomeda. So obviously, we'll be able to support the algo, but we're also working on other kind of opportunities for liquid staking as well. And we have some other stuff in the pipeline that I mentioned earlier, like gaming and some other dApps that are going to come out that hopefully will make a big splash as well.
Wait, you said liquid staking as in liquid staking for Algorand governance?
Yeah.
Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, I mean, the same way, like, right now you can get the algo, right? So that you can have, kind of liquid staking for the governance. Nothing stops, the same functionality to basically work on, Algorand as well, so that you could get your algo on Milkomeda A1, but keep earning any rewards from any governance decision.
Seba, one last question from me. And by the way, I've peppered you with so many questions about A1 over the last few weeks. Thanks for all your time, and to Nico as well. Yesterday, Charles Hoskinson tweeted in reply to your announcement that you'd launched that A1 brings Algorand to Cardano. I didn't actually really understand what he meant. Do you know what he was saying in that instance? He was saying blockchain transitivity?
I think he's just being cheeky. So basically, we have two partners that have announced, as you may know, is Blueshift and Seller. So Blueshift is a DEX, Seller is a bridge. Both of them support A1 and C1. So there is kind of a way for you to go from Algorand, A1, C1, then to Cardano, and then back around. So transitively, you can go from one to the other, but the other direction is true as well. You could go from Cardano, C1, A1, Algorand. So I think he's just celebrating that there's a way to bridge assets across, and just, wording that in a very cheeky way.
Yeah, sure. No, it's great. And so then, as you guys roll out onto other chains, whether it's no matter what it is next, maybe it's S1 on Solana or whatever, as you roll out on different chains, you basically can bridge between the different C1, A1, S1, whatever.
Yeah. So what we're doing is we're adding EVM compatibility to non-EVM blockchains. Yeah. And so once you get EVM compatibility, as you may know, there's a lot of existing protocols written in EVM, including bridges. So these bridges are not written by us. It's just any bridge protocol that wants to, deploy to Algorand and may not want to, rewrite their bridge logic in PyTeal will now be able to, bridge to A1. And so some projects like Seller have decided to take that option to basically increase the bridging opportunities for Algorand.
Gotcha. Makes sense.
Cool. I do have another question for Seba, but before I pose the question, I want to invite the Algo fam, everybody that's listening to us live right now. If you have any questions, just hit the mic request button, all right? This is the place and the space for you to ask Seba and John all the questions that you want. So if you guys have any questions, just hit the mic request button right now. It's going to be a pleasure to bring you to the speaker board so you can ask your questions directly to these two amazing, people in our ecosystem, John and Seba. So Seba, the question that I have for you is, okay, so we've been live for a couple of days now, right? I think maybe 3 full days that we've been live. Do you have any early on statistics, any analytics to share with us in terms of usage, activity, anything cool that happened over the last couple of days, so we get a sense of how it has begun?
Yeah, so you can find out all the statistics on the A1 Explorer. So if you want to figure out what people are doing, users have come across. We have a Bridge Explorer as well as Explorer for the actual network itself. We've seen a few thousand transactions already. So by the way, it's been about 24 hours since release, something around there. So, a decent amount of user traction. We have about 200,000 USD equivalent of tokens on A1, so including Algo, USDC, and other assets. So this is pretty good so far. Obviously, we'll expect more adoption as there are more applications deployed. So right now we have the DEX, the bridge, and so this is an interesting place for people to start bringing funds over to play around and get a sense of the experience. But I would expect, as we see more real protocols, real applications deploy on A1, for adoption to ramp up.
Cool. Thanks for sharing. I'm gonna spend some time on the Explorer a little bit later and get some statistics out of it. And while I'm waiting for anybody from the Algo fam to just hit the mic request button and come up live to ask you some questions, I just want to make a quick announcement for the Algo fam. Is that Algo fam, I hear you, I see you. I wanna have all of you at Decipher with us, end November, November 28th, 29th, and 30th. So I was able to get you guys a special promo code. So if anybody that's listening to us live right now, or will check out the recording later, is considering attending our Decipher event in Dubai, please DM me and I'll send you a very special promo code that's going to save you 25% off of your tickets, all right? But hurry, because I only have a handful of those I managed to get from our team to distribute to the Algo fam. So if you're considering on attending Decipher, DM me right now and I'm going to send you a code to save 25% off, all right? We have our first request from the Algo fam. I'm just bringing the person to the speaker board. Just a second. Hey, Shantu, can you hear me?
Yes. Hello. Can you hear me, guys?
Hey. Yes, we can. All right. The space is all yours.
All right. Amazing. I came in late here. I actually met you briefly, Sebastien, in Texas at Consensus. It was very nice to meet you. So we started something called Send Crypto, XEM.network. We launched 12 days ago on Ethereum, and we are on 7 chains already, and we created 15 million wallets across all these chains. So we're growing rapidly, and I'm very interested to explore where we would go next. And Algorand and Cardano is something that we are very interesting to explore, to go to next, possibly through Milkomeda. So yeah, I missed this whole chat, but I'm curious to explore a little more deeper what the concrete next steps would be. I also DM'd you, Sebastien, so if you could just throw us in the right direction, that would be amazing. I think we would be a good project because we can make a big impact to bridge all these networks together. So grateful for any advice.
Yeah, for sure. So if you go to milkomeda.com, there's going to be a get started now documentation that has all the steps for how to set up A1. So you'll get the RPC endpoint, the instructions on how to set up MetaMask, where the Explorer is, kind of all the information you'll want. There's some stuff that, depending on what your application is doing, may still be in development. Notably, if your application depends on, for example, Gnosis Safe or some other existing dApp on Ethereum, that dApp may not be deployed on A1 yet. So if you have some transitive dependency, let us know. We can work on getting that deployed. Gnosis Safe will probably be deployed fairly soon, and we'll have some other known kind of partners coming on as well. So if you have any dependencies that we aren't covering, just let us know. Once you've gone through the documentation, you've built your solution, and by the way, it's permissionless. You don't need our permission to deploy anything, so you can just follow the docs and do it yourself. But if you deploy something and things are looking good, let our team know, and we can work together on doing a joint blog post about the announcement of a few folks deploying on Algorand through A1.
Sounds great. Thank you so much. Looking forward. Milkomeda.com. Got it.
And I would say as well, there's only about 4 steps for developers. You go through, you get your test algo, configure MetaMask, wrap the assets, and then you're able to deploy. It really is super simple. So it's a testament actually to the work of the DC Spark team. Of course, nothing to do with me, but just to say that you should try it out. And there's also documentation there for end users who want to actually interact with these things.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it, guys. Looking forward. Will be interesting for sure.
Awesome. Looking forward to seeing you on A1. One love, all yours.
Hello, guys. Hey, John. Thanks for all you guys do. That's my first time speaking on this space. I don't believe in being like a maximalist for anything, so I own many coins, and I just happen to love Algorand because I see how fast it is, how cheap the fees are, and I'm all for it. With that said, we just spoke about bridges a lot, and following the news recently, we heard about a lot of exploits, having to do with bridges. My question is, how can you assure us, I mean, in terms of vulnerabilities and preventing hacking and stuff, I just wanted you to address that, please. Thank you.
Sure, absolutely. Great question, by the way, and nice to meet you. Yeah, so here's what I think. So I my background was really leading teams of software architects, applied crypto, and I've led cloud security for major firms. So I have a background in security engineering, and so security tends to be in layers, right? And the more layers of security you have, the better things are. So there's no magic solutions, and so I guess what I'm trying to say is, if I look at smart contracts, and I think you're absolutely right, okay, and it's an apparent and real issue where you have, users are using these really sophisticated apps that are running on emergent technologies, which are totally new, and in many times they don't have an understanding of the security models of the bridges or the smart contracts. So here's the kind of things I think you can do to try to protect yourself. The first one, of course, is to use products by well-established multi-chain vendors like DC Spark, who have a track history without exploit. The second, of course, is to try to identify bridges where they've gone through formal audit. And so a formal audit where, a security firm with real human beings has sat down and gone through the code to make sure that it's as correct and as secure as possible is the first step. Another thing, though, we're doing, because of course audits are expensive. When you go to a big audit firm and you try to hire them to look at your code, it can be prohibitively expensive, and so sometimes hundreds of thousands of euros or dollars. So not every small project can afford that. So to make this easier at source for people building on Algorand, we're going to be rolling out as part of AlgoKit, which is the new developer tool suite that I launched in Singapore, I gave the announcement for in Singapore, which will be coming in Q1 2023. It's a totally new way to build apps using this totally cool new developer suite. It's going to be really, really simple. And what this suite will do is it will ship with templates. It's going to ship with smart contract templates that are great starting points for secure development. So they've been audited, and for example, it might be a smart contract that represents an NFT, one that represents a DAO, one that represents a DEX or a swap, and a swapping platform. And so by giving developers these starting points where we know they're safe, they've been looked at by professionals, this is going to also help minimize the number of security exploits that you see, because people will be starting from a safer point. And then finally, I would just say that there are other techniques such as formal methods, mathematical proving of correctness, or indeed static analysis of the code for known vulnerabilities. And I think, as I said at the very start, security comes in layers, and the more layers of protection you have, the better. And so I'm hoping that over time, as the developer tools mature on Algorand, we will be able to produce more and more secure bridges and products due to these various layers that we have. But you're right. Right now, one should be careful with the bridges that you use. Look for those that are open source. Look to those that have published the auditing reports, and look to those from established vendors like DC Spark will be my advice. I don't know, Seba, if you've got anything else to add to that.
Yeah, so I'll say there's three parts that I think you're asking about. One is, trusting Algorand itself. Is the Algorand blockchain implemented correctly? The second one is trusting Milkomeda. Is Milkomeda implemented correctly? And then third one is trusting any application built on top of Milkomeda. Is that Solidity application built correctly? So obviously, the Algorand team has shown, quite a long track record of very good R&D on this. And so as far as our protocol is concerned, we consider the Algorand platform as a safe platform to deploy on. For ourselves, we take security very seriously. So for example, we've done 2 manual audits of our code base, and we've also done a formal verification of our bridge contract as well. Obviously, there is a huge cost to going through these 3 different steps. But as you know, we've seen that these kinds of applications are kind of a hotbed of activity, and so we want to be triply sure of what we're doing. And then for applications that launch on top of Milkomeda that are written in Solidity, we're going to be launching a dApp store fairly soon. And from the dApp store, you'll be able to see all the dApps that deployed to A1, as well as a link to any audit or formal verification that they've done for the application.
Thanks, Sebastian. Thanks, John. And Sebastian, really, you are in a very like particular position because I follow you. I see what you do, and it's not easy to be, in the. I don't want to say in the middle of it, because A1 to C1, C-way to A1, it's just helpful to everybody. Just keep going, man. We follow you, and just you're doing a great job. So just stay who you are. Thank you.
Thank you. And I want to say as well, so as people who have followed me for a while know, I've been working in Cardano for a long time, helping set standards for that blockchain, building tooling for that blockchain, and so on. And I've been so used over the years that whenever a problem needs to be solved, I have to be the one to come up with the tool and the standard and everything, and work on multi-month projects about how to build all the missing components to get stuff built. But Algorand has been wonderful. All the stuff we needed for Algorand was already there, available to us. Anything that wasn't quite there, people have been helping us, make sure it gets built very fast. And the Algorand Foundation has also been a huge amount of help in every way imaginable. And so the experience of building on Algorand has just been amazing.
Thank you. I'm going to yield my time, and so I can let others speak. So thank you.
And thanks as well, Seba, for that compliment. I appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, Ada Swap, it is a pleasure to have you on the speaker board. How's it going?
Hey. So thank you very much for letting me speak. Here is Itai, the CEO of AdaSwap. So first of all, I would love to say congratulations for Milkomeda and Algorand. I have to say that we are in AdaSwap. We love Algorand. We are actually speaking with the foundation. John, if you don't mind, I would love to speak with you about after the MA between us. So we just came here to say congrats, and Milkomeda is upcoming an beautiful EVM for Cardano and Algorand, and I hope will be more. And this is a beautiful milestone to finish the deployment and to be ready for it. So just congratulations, and that's it. This is from our side. By the way, guys, if I'm here, so it's nice to say that we also finished to deploy our we are ready for our mainnet. It will be on the 28th of November, also on Milkomeda. And again, John, I would love to speak with you to
Sure.
see what I think we can do so many things together. Actually, I started to speak with the foundation, but with the CTO, it will be very interesting.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think
Listen, sorry, Sarah, just one thing. I was going to say, after it'd be lovely to speak with you. Just drop me a note in Twitter DMs, and we'll set up a meeting and we'll have a chat. Thanks for all the congratulations.
Perfect.
Sorry,
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, there's multiple projects from Milkomeda C1, the Cardano deployment of Milkomeda, as well as Cardano, the main chain, that have reached out to us asking about coming over to Algorand. So we're more than happy to help anybody with the transition.
Fantastic. Thank you for the very kind words, AdaSwap. Pleasure to have you here today. We're almost at the top of the hour, but I think we can squeeze in one last question from the community. John, welcome to the speaker board. Fire away.
Hey, I'll just jump into it. Will there be a VIP event online for Dubai?
Is this for Decipher?
Yes, for Decipher.
So we're definitely going to be streaming it. It's going to be on YouTube, I believe. And there's definitely going to be online interaction, but I don't yet have the details on whether or not we're going to do any kind of gated event. I promise I'm going to be singing from the rooftops on this. So I will try to find out and make sure that it's clear. And by the way, as Fred said, we have a limited number of concessions that we can give to reduce the price of the ticket for Decipher. So if anyone's actually interested in going, and I understand Dubai is a little bit of a trip, but if anyone's interested in going, if you DM us, we'll try to arrange you a concession.
Yeah, I should also add that both me and one of my co-founders, Nico, will be at Decipher. So if you've listened to the Twitter space and you have any additional questions, obviously you can DM us anytime on Twitter. As you know, you can DM me personally or the Milkomeda account, or you can join the Discord group. But as well, if you would prefer to ask in person, we'll be there. So don't hesitate to come say hi.
Thank you much.
Fantastic. All right, I think we might be able to squeeze one last question from Prefy. Prefy, fire it away.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Great space. I enjoyed the conversation. I have a technical question for John or Sebastien. I know Algorand does a really good job of telling you which projects have freeze and clawbacks. But I was wondering if you had an EVM or something coded in Solidity with a clawback in it, are there ever any conflicts, right? So like, I'm not trying to scam people, but could people be scammed if they see something that says like no clawbacks, but in the Solidity code there is a clawback? Like, have you run into any conflicts like that yet?
Yeah, I can talk about that. So obviously, on Solidity, it's a Turing-complete programming language. So theoretically, you can do anything, including implementing some clawback logic or anything else.
Mm-hmm.
That's why if you look at A1, we don't support bridging arbitrary assets. It's not like you can go mint an arbitrary Ethereum EVM token and get that bridged over to Algorand. There needs to be an approval process for that. So we have a few tokens supported already, including USDC, and we'll be talking to a lot more teams in the future about getting the tokens bridged over, as we have to make sure that all these are done properly.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and by the way,
you guys have a wonderful day, and I appreciate it.
It's a great question, by the way. I would just add one last thing to what Sebastien said, which is I think we need to be really careful with this stuff on Algorand. Yes, it's great that we have ASAs that have this freeze, clawback, etc. I mean, they're great features. But it's really important from the user point of view. If you buy an NFT, you buy an asset, whatever, that you're aware of what you're buying. And so just like when you buy food and it tells you how much sugar's in it or how much fat is in it, and you're aware, I think we need to be doing the same thing. So I would be encouraging in the ecosystem, the various explorers that are out there. I know they show it, but if you're not technical, it can be difficult to understand. They need to be showing it in a more visual way for people who are not super techy, right?
Absolutely. 1000% agree.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for the amazing question. And unfortunately, I mean, we're past the top of the hour. We have to wrap up our Twitter spaces. But before I do so, I want to ask Seba and John, is there any final remarks, anything else that you want to share with the community before we wrap up for the day?
I would just say that I'm thrilled to work with DC Spark. I'm looking forward to doing future things with you guys on Algorand. I think that A1 on Algorand is the best implementation of a Milkomeda EVM compatibility layer that I've ever seen. And I thank you for turning it around so quickly. And to the rest of the Algo fam and to the community out there, thanks for your support. The last 3 months I've been in this role have been brilliant.
Yeah, I would like to say as well, as I mentioned earlier, working with the foundation has been amazing. Working with Algorand has been amazing. As somebody who has dedicated multiple years of my life to developing Cardano, it's partially sad that the grand vision of the awesome technology you want to build is not possible in that chain at the moment. Algorand has all the technology we needed to really build out this amazing vision that we've had and get that deployed and get that to market. So really grateful to all the Algorand engineers that have been working tirelessly for years on their own platform to deliver all these features that we can then use from our side to hopefully build a wonderful ecosystem with all of you.
Beautiful. Thank you very much, Seba. Thank you very much, John. I truly appreciate your time today. Seba, once again, congratulations to you, Nico, and the entire team for pulling out this amazing feat that is A1. I'm super thrilled that it's live, and I cannot wait to see what's going to come out of it. So once again, thank you very much for all of your time today. I appreciate the entire Algo fam for tuning in live. Hundreds of you joined us live, and I'm sure thousands are going to follow check the playback later. So thank you very much, everybody, for your time. And once again, if you, Algo fam, are planning on attending Decipher, DM me right now and I'll send you a special promo code to save 25% off every ticket, all right? Everyone, have a fantastic weekend and we'll talk soon. Cheers.
Cheers.